ZHANG. Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel. And I'm sorry, it seems like the internet's already acting up. I tried to restart Discord, so I'm not sure where the issue lies. But yeah, we're gonna go with it. Luckily, it's more audio based than like visuals this time around. So sorry about that, but yeah, let's hope that works. Thank you to Prakishak. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but thank you for correcting me on the title. I fixed it, so I'm not sure if it's gonna immediately show, but I did fix it. So hopefully it'll reflect soon, if not immediately. So yeah, okay. Whew, sorry, I am very stressed because obviously I'm not a professional reader. I tried to practice a little bit by like reading Modao Zushi out loud ahead of time for the past week in an effort to improve my reading a little bit before today, but I can't promise how well it's gonna go today. So we're just gonna hope for the best and see where this takes us. I'm very excited about ErHa, however, regardless of how well or how badly the actual reading is gonna go. I'm super excited. So yeah, let me quickly see if I can do a proper introduction. So just a heads up, obviously, as I said, I'm not a professional reader, so there's gonna be some mistakes. I'm gonna be stumbling over my words at some points. I'm pretty sure I might end up changing a sentence by accident. That has also happened during my practice, and I am not actually an English speaker as a first language, so there's also a lot of opportunities for me to probably mispronounce words that I've been reading in my head and never had to say out loud before. So we're gonna see how that goes. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna try our best. I do want to quickly mention thank you to the new member who joined. Your name disappeared right before the live, so I can't. It was something army, but yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I think that's more or less it. We're here to have fun. I don't curse. That was the other thing that I remembered I need to mention. I don't curse. So we're gonna see how it goes. I might accidentally end up cursing because that happened while I was practicing the reading and I was very disappointed in myself. But generally I don't curse. So we're gonna see how many fun words I can make up on the spot when I have to switch out the curse words. But yeah, so we have volume 1 here. I finally got volume 2. I'm so excited. And the art is just so beautiful. But obviously, because I'm actually reading from a physical book, there isn't going to be any visual representation on the screen. So, you know, get your art supplies out or whatever you want to get out for to distract you while I'm reading. I'm sorry. I'm very nervous. Okay. This is just so beautiful, and I kind of can't get over it. This is why I'm willing to pay all my monthly salary towards these books, because they're just so beautiful. Okay, I have water here with me. We shall see how long that lasts. I think I should stop talking now so we can save my voice for the reading bit. And I might end up changing the setup a little bit because I didn't really think this through very well in terms of like, probably it would have been better to have something to perch the book on while I'm reading. So this is gonna be interesting. But yeah, okay. So I think I've spoken enough now without actually reading. I think we can just get straight into it if you guys don't mind. Oh, and last thing I did want to mention, I am not going to be doing a full 2-hour stream this weekend. I'm going to be doing 1 hour today and then 1 hour tomorrow because I just kind of want to see what my pacing is like, see if I can survive for more than an hour, but I don't want to commit to anything more than an hour for the first weekend, just to be on the safe side. Okay, we're gonna try. I'm not a very chill person. I'm a very anxious person by nature. So we're gonna try and be very professional about it. It's not gonna work though. Okay, so I have multiple bookmarks here because I can't choose. One of them was sent to me by Vivi. Okay, and I need to stop hitting the mic. That would be good as well. Okay, now I'm just gonna get into it because otherwise I'm gonna overthink it. Okay. How is this gonna work? This is not gonna work. Okay, yeah. Okay. Before Moran became an emperor, people were always calling him a dog. The villagers called him a damn mutt. His cousins called him a stupid... Wow, right into the curse words. How are we gonna do this? Because you guys can't see the types of curse words we have here. A stupid beep, okay? And the woman who took him in outdid them all, calling him a... Okay, we're gonna see how long this lasts. A beep's whelp. Mind you, there were other dog-related metaphors that weren't so bad. For example, his one-night stands always grumbled with feigned petulance that his energy in bed was like that of an alpha dog. Oh my word, I'm not gonna be able to read this. For example, though his words were sweet enough to tempt the soul, the weapon between his legs had no lethality. I'm sorry. Enough to... Whoa, okay, hold on. Let's try this again. Though his words were sweet enough to tempt the soul, the weapon between his legs had no lethality enough to make them feel like they were about to lose their lives. But after the act, they would turn around and boast about that same thing, to the point that the entire pleasure district knew this merveilleux fellow was both a handsome face and a good lay. Oh my word, what am I reading? All who had tried him out found themselves quite fulfilled, and those who hadn't yet were sorely tempted. It must be said that all those names were incredibly spot on. Moran was indeed very much like a dumb, tail-wagging dog. Well, we know where the title comes from. Only once he became emperor of the cultivation world did these epithets disappear in a flash. One day, a small sect from a faraway land offered Moran the gift of a puppy. The puppy had a greyish-white coat and a flame-shaped mark upon its forehead, somewhat like that of a wolf. But it was only as large as a melon, and it looked like it had the sentience of one. All chubby and round as it was, it nonetheless seemed to think itself a rather mighty creature, and ran all around the great halls with abandon. Several times it tried to catch a glimpse of the calm and unruffled presence on the throne, making attempts to scale the high steps, but its legs were too short, and after multiple defeats, it finally abandoned its efforts. Oh, shame! Trying him out like a piece of clothing. Oh my word, okay. Moran stared at that energetic yet seemingly brainless ball of fur for a long while before suddenly letting out a laugh, calling it a damn mutt as he did so. The puppy soon grew to become a big dog. The big dog became an old dog, and eventually the old dog became a dead dog. Damn, you really didn't give me any time to get attached to this poor thing. Moran closed his eyes, then opened them. His life filled as it had been with the ebb and flow of prestige and shame, ups and downs, felt like it had gone by in a blink. Before he knew it, 32 years had passed. He had grown bored of his dalliances, and everything had lost its flavor and appeal. In recent years, the familiar faces around him had faded away, one by one, and even that flame-marked dog had passed on to the heavens. He felt that soon it would be time for him as well, time for it all to come to an end. He plucked a plump, smooth-skinned grape from his bowl of fruits and began to peel off its purple skin with unhurried movements. His actions were easy and practiced, like that of a tribal chief in his camp, peeling off the robes of his exotic concubine. You just had to go there. You couldn't last one page without the innuendos. Oh my word. Oh goodness. Where am I? Okay. Languid and lazy. The lustrous flesh of the grape quivered lightly in his fingertips. The juice seeped out an exquisite purple, vibrant like a sunset-lined cloud carried in the beaks of wild fowl across the sky. Oh my word, that's an image. Like high-tang blossoms entering slumber in late spring. Or of bloodstain, 'cause those two are comparable. Oh my word, okay. He scrutinized his fingers as he chewed and swallowed the heavy sweetness of the grape before lifting his gaze with detached insolence. It's about time now, he said to himself, about time for him to go to hell. As you do. Moran, courtesy name Weiyue, the first emperor of the cultivation world. I never understood the courtesy names because I always thought that the private names, like, okay, let's use more Daozushi, for example. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Just give me a brief moment to do so. I always thought that Wei Ying and Nanzhan were the private names, right? So then the public ones would be Wei Wuxian. But then everyone was like, no, it's the opposite way around. And I was like, but then what is the big deal? Why was Lanzhan freaking out the first time that Wei Ying called him Lanzhan? I'm so confused. Okay, anyway. It had not been an easy path to reach where he now stood. It had taken not only outstanding spiritual power, but a thick-skinned shamelessness that we've already seen, and disregard of what others thought. Before he had come along, the 10 great sects of the cultivation world had been locked in a stalemate, fighting non-stop over their divided territory. With the sects clashing against one another like so, none had been able to emerge as a frontrunner to rule the world and call the shots. Besides, the sect leaders were all learned people. Even if they had wanted to grant themselves titles, they were too weary of chroniclers' pens, too self-conscious of how they would be portrayed in the annals of history. I don't think I read that right. Moran was different. He was a scoundrel. Yes. What others never dared to do, he'd gone and done it all, drinking the finest fineries wines of the mortal realm, marrying the most beautiful women in the world, first establishing himself as Taxianjun, leader of the cultivation world, then declaring himself emperor. All bowed before him. Any who refused to kneel were slaughtered, one and all. In his years of tyranny, the cultivation world was drowned in blood, and desolation and starvation spread throughout the land. Countless vigilantes died martyrs' death, and Rufang's sect of the 10 great sects was completely annihilated. Damn, okay. Later still, even Moran's esteemed teacher was unable to escape his demonic claws. In a final battle with Moran, his once beloved disciple defeated him, then imprisoned him in his palace. No one knew what became of the man thereafter. A land of clear rivers and calm seas, once great, now lay smothered under the miasmic haze of pandemonium. That dog of an Emperor Moran was not well read, and what's more, he cared little for taboos and inhibitions. As such, during the time in which he was in power, there was no shortage of absurdity. For example, the titles of his reigning years. The first 3 years of his reign he named Wang Ba, tortoise. He had thought of it while feeding fish by a pond. Okay. He's so extra dramatic, I can't. Lol, still love him though. Yeah, no. This is very ridiculous, but I'm kind of living for it. The second set of 3 years he titled Gua, croak. The reason being that he'd heard frogs croaking in the garden during the summer months and believed them to be inspiration sent from the heavens. I can't. Something not to be taken for granted. The country's scholars believed that no reigning titles could ever be more tragic than tortoise and frog. I'm sorry. But alas, they underestimated MECHUU. In the third set of 3 years, a restlessness stirred throughout the realm. Whether they were Buddhist, Taoist, or spiritual cultivators, the righteous people of the ZHANG could no longer endure Moran's tyranny, and they began to rise up in rebellion. And so, after much consideration and contemplation, after tossing aside draft after draft, Moran eventually came up with a title that shook the heavens and earth, that made gods and ghosts weep alike. Jiba, cease battle. I'm so sorry. Okay. The title's metaphorical meaning was all well and good. What metaphorical? Can you call it metaphorical when it's written on the can? Okay. This emperor, the first of his kind, had used every single last drop of brain power. Okay. Yeah, no, sure. The last bit of brain power. He possessed to come up with it, and he had based it off of the fortuitous phrase, lay down your arms and cease battle. It was only that the phrase was exceedingly awkward when spoken out loud in common context. It was all the more awkward for those who couldn't read and could therefore only go off the way it sounded. The first year was called Jiba Yun Nian, the first year of cease battle. But why did it have to sound like the year of... Oh my soul, okay. I'm unfortunately gonna have to say this, because otherwise it's not gonna... The first year of cock and balls. I have sunk to a new low. Okay, I need a pillow. I don't know how I'm gonna hold the pillow while I'm also holding a book, but we're gonna make it work. Oh my word. Where am I? Okay. The second year was called the second year of cock. This is gonna be demonetized. Then the third year was just repeated. I'm not saying it again. There were those who, behind locked doors, cursed and said, this is ridiculous. You might as well just go ahead and call it the age of... That way, when you want to ask a man's age, all you'll have to do is ask the vintage of his... What am I doing with my life? Oh, hell, okay. 100-year-old man could just be called a centennial. A centennial, gee. Let's just go with that. After 3 agonizing years, the time finally came for the reigning title Chiba Seas Battle to be replaced. The world waited anxiously to see His Imperial Majesty the Emperor would come up with for the 4th round. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. However, by this time, Moran had lost all interest in such matters. Because it was in this year that the unrest simmered throughout the lands finally came to a boil. After nearly a decade of weathering Moran's tyranny, those righteous people, heroes and vigilantes one and all, finally gathered to form an army, millions strong, and banded together against Emperor Moyue. Oh goodness, okay. The cultivation world needed no emperor, let alone a tyrant like him. After many months of bloody battles, the rebel armies finally came to the foot of Shizun Peak, located within the region of Sichuan. Okay, hold on, sorry, just give me 2 seconds. I was ready for the water, thing. I was not ready for my hands to get tired. What is this? Okay, sorry. While I drink some water, are you guys surviving? You can't hear? Oh goodness. How's everyone else's audio? Because I know the visuals is lagging. I'm not sure if the audio is also a problem. I can try and refresh the stream, but I don't know what that might do. Okay, let me know if I should try and refresh the stream, but otherwise I'm gonna continue. Okay, as long as the audio is fine, it should be fine. Located within the region of Sichuan, this was a place of steep, perilous mountain bluffs, surrounded throughout the years by curling streams of clouds and mist. That sounds amazing. At the very summit of it all stood Moran's grand and majestic palace. It was too late to turn back now, and their goal of overthrowing the tyrant was but a single strike away. However, this last stretch was almost the most treacherous. Though the shining beacon of victory lay before their eyes, the previously unassailable unity of the army, joined together in common opposition of Moran, began to fracture. Oh, okay, that seems strange. The audio is a little shaky for me too. Okay. Okay. Keep commenting if the audio remains bad. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna keep reading for maybe one more page and then we shall reevaluate. They were all aware that once the old regime was overthrown, a new order would need to be established. Nobody wanted to spend all of their energy in this last stretch. Thus, nobody volunteered to spearhead the final charge to lead them to the mountain. They were all afraid that this cunning, vicious tyrant would suddenly drop from the skies, bare his glinting bestial teeth, and rip apart all those who dared to surround and destroy his palace, shredding them to pieces. Moyu's spiritual powers are unfathomable. Ugh, I hate that word. Unfathomable. Real-time glitch. Unfathomable. And the man himself is treacherous. One person said, face grim, "We must be cautious, lest we fall for his traps." All the leaders tied in with... Wow, okay, my words are failing me. Audio lags a bit. No need to do anything about it yet. Okay. Let's try and get back into this. All the leaders chimed in with their agreement. At that moment, an exceptionally handsome young man with proud, haughty features stepped forward. He wore a set of light armor in blue with silver trim and a belt embellished with a lion's head, and his hair was fastened in a high ponytail, secured at the base with an exquisite silver hairpin. "We've already come to the foot of the mountain," said the young man with an ugly expression. "What are you all milling about for? So reluctant to go up? Are you waiting for MOMINA to come down himself? What a bunch of cowardly good-for-nothings." His words ignited a flurry of responses from the gathered. "What are you talking about, Shugongzi? What do you mean by cowardly? A soldier must always be prudent and cautious. If we were to be as brash and reckless as you, who would take responsibility if something untoward were to happen?" "Huh. Shugongzi is the darling of the heavens, and we are but mere commoners," another person sneered tauntingly. "If the darling of the heavens can't wait to fight the emperor of the mortal realm, then by all means, please be the first to go up the mountain. We'll set up a feast down here by the foot to await your gracious return with MOMINA's head. Won't that be nice?" That comment had gone too far. One of the old Buddhist monks in the alliance, I know how to read, I think, swept in to hold back Shimeng, who was on the verge of losing it, and plastered on a benign expression. "Shugongzi, pay heed to these words," he said in sympathetic, coaxing tones. "This old monk knows that you and MOMINA share a deep personal grudge, but this assault on the palace is a critical operation. You must think of the group. Don't let your emotions carry you away." The individual whom everyone referred to as Shugongzi was a youth named Shimeng. Over a decade ago, he'd been praised, as all young prodigies had been, the darling of the heavens. But circumstances changed with the times, and Shimeng was no longer in his element. Now he was forced to suffer their taunts and ridicule, and also he could go up the mountain to meet Moran face to face one more time. Shimeng's face twisted with anger, his lips trembling, but with great effort he suppressed his feelings and merely asked, "Then just how long are you planning to wait around?" "We've got to at least survey the surroundings, right?" "That's right. What if MOMINA has set a trap?" Oopsie. "Shugongzi, don't be impatient," the old monk who'd stepped in earlier added. "We've come all the way to the foot of the mountain, so it would be best to remain wary. Either way, MOMINA is trapped inside his palace and can't come down to us. He's at the end of his rope with nowhere to go. What use would it be for us to be impatient and act reckless? There are so many of us down here, and so many illustrious and prominent figures in our company. If they were to lose their lives to rash judgment, who would be responsible?" "Responsible?" Shimeng burst with rage. "Then let me ask you, who's going to be responsible for my Shizun's life? Moran has had my Shizun imprisoned for 10 years. 10 whole years. With my Shizun right before my eyes, just up the mountain. How am I supposed to wait?" On hearing Shimeng mention his teacher, the mob couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. Some looked ashamed, and others averted their gazes, mumbling one excuse or another. 10 years ago, when Moran gave himself the title Taishengje, he laid waste to the 72 cities of Rufeng sect, and planned to do the same to the remaining 9 great sects. Later still, when he crowned himself emperor, he was going to kill every last one of you. Who was it who stopped him both times? If it hadn't been for my Shizun, who put his own life on the line for you, would any of you be alive right now? Would you even be standing here, sprouting these empty words at me?" At length, someone cleared their throats. "Shugongzi, don't be angry," they said gently. "With regards to Chu Zongshi. I don't think that's right. Anyway, we all feel guilty as well as gratitude. If someone knows, would you mind just dropping the correct pronunciation in the comments? Because I would prefer to pronounce it correctly. But as you said, he's been imprisoned for 10 years. If anything was going to happen, it would have already. Well, you've waited 10 years now. Waiting another moment won't hurt, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't I say? I'd say go screw yourself. That someone gasped in shock. How dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? Shizun put his own life on the line, and it was all to save people like... Shumeng couldn't continue the sentence. Instead, he choked out through a sob. All of you are undeserving. His piece said. Shumeng jerked away, turning his face aside. His shoulders shook lightly as he held back his tears. It's not like we said we weren't going to rescue Chu Zongshi. Yeah, we all remember the things Chu Zongshi did for us. Of course, we didn't forget. It's pure slander for Shu Gongzi to say such things, calling us ingrates. I won't stand for it. But come to think of it, wasn't Moran also a disciple of Chu Zongshi? Yeah, we all remember the things Chu Zongshi did for us. Of course, we didn't forget. Oh, sorry, I think I repeated something. Someone asked quietly. I must say, when the disciple turned out to be a malefactor. What the hell's that? Malefactor? I don't know that word. It's only right for the teacher to take responsibility. As they say, to rise without teaching is the father's flaw, and to teach without discipline is the teacher's failing. Maybe it was inevitable. So what's there to complain about? Okay, so I'm assuming it's basically like if there's a malfunction, then it's his responsibility, which sucks. I don't like that. I just wanted to check something. Oh goodness. I see there's a very big, like, lag with the visuals. I hope the audio is still okay. Okay. Go. Now this was definitely going too far, and it was immediately decried. What nonsense! Watch what you're saying. The same decrier then turned towards Shumeng with a diplomatic look. Shu Gongzi, some patience. How can I be patient? Shumeng cut him off, his gaze furious. Easy enough for all of you to stand around talking, but that's my Shizun. Mine. I haven't seen him in years. I don't even know whether he's alive or dead, much less how he's doing. Why do you think I'm even standing here? His breathing was harsh and ragged, and the corners of his eyes reddened as he continued. Don't tell me you're all waiting here, hoping for MOYRHOFER to come down the mountain of his own accord, to kneel in front of you and beg for mercy. Shu Gongzi, other than Shizun, I have no family left in this world. Shumeng jerked his sleeve free from the older monk's hold. Fine, you won't go? He asked hoarsely. Then I'll go myself. After flinging out that last statement, he left to head up the mountain, a solitary figure with a single sword. The chilly, damp wind mingled with the surroundings of susurration. Sadness? Oh goodness. Here come the chilly, damp wind mingled with the susurrations of the foliage, combined with the thick fog that lay everywhere. It was as if countless malicious ghosts and grieving spirits wandered amidst the trees, rustling and whispering. All alone, Shimeng climbed the peak towards Moran's magnificent palace, which stood like a beacon in the night, illuminated by calm candlelight. As he drew near, his gaze caught on the 3 graves at the foot of the heaven-piercing tower. When he approached for a closer look, he saw that long weeds had grown over the first grave mound, and on its gravestone was inscribed the following words in childish, dogged scroll: Grave of the esteemed consort Chu. Chu? Chu as in Chu Zongshi, like the person that we just spoke about. Consort. Let's just continue. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. In contrast to this what? Okay, I'm just gonna read it as it's written here and then we will discuss. In contrast to this esteemed consort, the second grave was newly dug, the earth only sealed, and upon the tombstone was inscribed, Grave of the deep-fried Empress Song. What on earth is Moran doing? Oh my word. Shimeng had no words. If this had been 10 or more years ago, such a ridiculous sight would have made him laugh out loud in spite of himself. At the time, he and Moran had been disciples under the same Shizun, and Moran had been quite the joker. Even though Shimeng had found Moran disagreeable, despite everything, the man had still ended up making him laugh from time to time. Heaven only knew what all the esteemed consort and deep-fried empress business was about. Perhaps the style with which Scholar Moore had graced his 2 wives was the same as that which had produced Wangba Tortoise, Guo Croak, and Ji Basi's battle. As to why he would bestow such monikers on his own empress and consort, there was no knowledge. Okay. You're gonna start. Oh my goodness, I'm not sure why. Now I'm scared. Okay. Shimeng turned his gaze to the 3rd grave, which lay open under the night sky. Within it lay a coffin, but there was no body in that coffin, and the tombstone remained unmarked. However, before the grave sat a small pot of pearl blossom white wine, a bowl of chili oil, wonton long gone cold, and a few plates of spicy, numbing mala side dishes, all fair flavored by Moran. Shimeng stared at the grave for a long moment as shock struck his heart. Could it be that Moran had no intention of fighting, and that he had long since dug his own grave? That he was ready to die? I mean, I kind of wouldn't put it past him, but I think that's not the case, unfortunately. Sorry. The thought made Shimeng break into a cold sweat. He refused to believe it. Moran was the kind of person who clung to things till his dying breath, without even showing fatigue. The kind of person who didn't know the definition of surrender. Given his history, he was bound to keep fighting the rebel army to the bitter end. So why? These past 10 years, Moran had stood at the summit of power. What exactly had he seen? What exactly had happened to him? No one knew. Shimeng turned around and re-entered the darkness, stalking in great strides towards the brightly lit Wushang palace. Moran sat within the palace, eyes screwed shut and his face deathly pale. Shimeng had guessed right. Moran was determined to die. That grave mound outside had been dug by his own hands. 2 hours ago, he had used communication spell to dismiss his servants, then swallowed a deadly poison. Oh! Okay. You don't have the courage? Oh, goodness, okay. With his high level of cultivation, the poison's efficiency had slowed to a crawl as it spread throughout his body, leaving him able to feel every agonizing, I'm assuming it's going to be second of it, moment with vivid acuity as the effects of the poison dissolved his internal organs. What a grim way to go. The door to the hall opened with a creak. Moran didn't look up. He only rasped, "Shimeng, it's you, right? Have you come?" Shimeng stood alone upon the golden pavement of the hall, his ponytail swinging free, his light armor glinting. This was a reunion of disciples who had been in the same sect once upon a time, yet Moran's face was devoid of expression, as he sat there with his chin propped in one hand, the thick curtains of his fine lashes lowered over his gaze. Everyone spoke of him as though he were a savage fiend with 3 heads and 6 arms, but in truth he was exceptionally good-looking. The bridge of his nose curved delicately, and the color of his lips were pale and dewy. His natural features had a sweet, gentle cast. If one looked at his face, they would think he was a good and lovely person. The sight of the face was all Shimeng needed to confirm his suspicions. Moran had poisoned himself. It was hard to parse his feelings at that moment, and when he opened his mouth to speak, no words came out. In the end, he clenched his fists and asked, "Where's Shizun?" "What?" "I said, where's Shizun?" Shimeng demanded sharply as a second time. "Yours, mine, our Shizun. Where is he?" "Oh." Moran snorted softly and finally, slowly blinked open his eyes. His pupils were dark, so black they looked to have hints of purple, and his gaze seemed to travel through layer upon layer of time passed before focusing on Shimeng. "Come to think of it, it's been 2 years since the last time you and Shizun met face to face." Okay, before we continue with this heartbreak that everyone seems terrified about, look, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it properly, but look at the beautiful art that they have here. It's so good, and I'm kind of scared of damaging this poor book. Oh goodness, okay. "Since your farewell at Kunlun Tashu Palace," Moran smiled faintly. "Shimeng, do you miss him?" "Enough nonsense. Give him back to me." Moran watched Shimeng calmly as he bore through the twisted pain in his stomach. His lips curled into a sneer and he leaned against the back of his throne. Darkness encroached on his sight. It was as if he could feel his innards wrenching, melting, and disintegrating into stinky, bloody swill. Ugh, that's a description that I didn't need in my life. Enough nonsense. Give him back to me. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. "Give him back to you?" Moran replied indolently. "How foolish. Why don't you use your brains to think a little? Shizun and I shared such an intense hatred for each other. How could I allow him to live in this world?" "You..." Shimeng's face went white and his eyes widened as he stepped back involuntarily. "You can't have... You wouldn't have..." "I wouldn't what?" Moran laughed softly. "Why don't you tell me? Why wouldn't I?" Shimeng's voice shook. "But he's still your Shizun. After everything, how could you bear to kill him?" He raised his head to look at Moran, seated on his emperor's throne. The heavens had Fushi, Hell and Yanlu, and in the mortal realm there was MECHUU. But as far as Shimeng was concerned, even if Moran had become the eminent emperor of the mortal realm, there was no way he would have done this. His body shook all over as his outraged tears spilled over. Moeyu, are you even human anymore? He wants... Moran lifted his gaze. He wants what? You know very well how he once treated you, Shimeng said, tone taut with emotion. Moran barked a sudden laugh. Are you trying to remind me that he once beat me so hard that I was left covered with cuts and bruises, that he made me kneel before all to confess my crimes? Or did you want me to remind me that for your sake, for the sake of all these significant nobodies, he stood in my way at every turn, ruined my great endeavors time and again? Shimeng shook his head, pained. No, Moran, think about it. Let go of your vicious hatred and look back properly. He once trained you in cultivation and martial arts, trained you in the art of self-defense. He once taught you how to read and write, taught you poetry and painting. He once learned how to cook just for you, even though he was so clumsy and got cuts all over his hands. Those were all thoughts, those were not said out loud. He once waited every day for you to come home, all alone by himself, from nightfall, till the break of dawn. These words caught in his throat, and at length Shimeng could only choke out. His temper was terrible, and his words are harsh, but even I know how well he treated you. So how could you... Shimeng raised his head, but having held back so many tears, his throat was even more constricted, and he couldn't continue. After a long pause, Moran's quiet sigh floated down from the throne. Yeah, but Shimeng, did you know? Moran was clearly exhausted. He also ended the life of the only person I ever loved, the only one. A deathly silence hung over them for a good long while. The pain in Moran's stomach, as his blood and flesh tore and ripped themselves to shreds, was like blazing fire. Still, we were once master and disciple. His body was resting in the Red Lotus Pavilion at the southern peak. He'd been well preserved and lies there among the lotus blossoms, like he'd only fallen asleep. Oh, it's a very grim thought, but okay. Moran caught his breath and forced himself to what? To calm down. Okay, just give me 2 seconds. I just want to take a breath. My friend told me it's a sweet story. Lol, it does have its sweet moments, but you have to go through the trauma to get there. Yeah, that sounds very much like Modazushi as well. There's a lot of description in the book that you don't want to read. She lied? There's no sweetness at all. Okay. Glad no one's agreeing on anything. That's always promising. I just want to grab a little bit of water real quick. Oh, damn. Where did the time go? It's almost an hour. Okay. I didn't realize we'd been busy for so long. Okay. When he spoke, his expression remained blank, but his fingers dug into the red sandalwood of his throne's armrest so tightly that his knuckles went white. His corpse is maintained by my spiritual powers. If you miss him, don't waste your breath here with me. Go now, before I die. A lump of astringent sweetness swarmed up into Moran's throat. He coughed a couple of times, and when he opened his mouth again, his lips and teeth were covered in blood. But his gaze was at ease. Go, he said with a rough voice. Go see him. Without my spiritual powers, he'll turn to dust. If you don't make it before I die, it'll be too late. Done speaking, he closed his eyes dispiritedly. The poison had reached his heart, bringing with it a torment like a raging inferno. The agony was so all-consuming that even Shimeng's anguished, despairing wails felt like they came from afar. Like he and Moran were separated by an ocean spanning thousands of miles, and his voice traveled over those waters. That's a beautiful description, damn. Blood continued to drip from the corner of Moran's lips, and his hands fisted in his sleeves as his muscles spasmed. When he opened his bleary eyes, Shimeng had long since run off. The kid's Qinggong lightness wasn't bad. It wouldn't take him long to reach the southern peak. He should be able to see Shizun one last time. Moran pushed himself up, wobbling as he rose to his feet. Using hands flecked with blood, he formed a seal and sent himself to the base of Shisheng Peak's heaven-piercing tower. It was deep autumn, and the haitang blossoms were in full abundant bloom. He didn't know why he'd ended up choosing this place to end his own sinful life, but with all the flowers blooming so vibrantly, at least it wouldn't be such a bad tomb. Oh goodness, okay. Moran lay down in that open coffin and looked up to watch the blossoms of the night drift soundlessly as they wilted, drifting into the coffin, drifting onto his cheeks, dancing and fluttering, fading away like the events of the past. In this life, he'd started out as a bastard son who possessed nothing, and after enduring a great deal, he'd become Lord Emperor of the mortal realm. He'd how I know how you pronounce blasphemy, but I don't know how you would say blasphemed. Is that close? I don't know. And his hands were covered in blood. All that he loved, all that he hated, and all that he prayed for, all that he resented. When all was said and done, there was nothing left. Ultimately, he hadn't even bothered to pen an epithet for himself with that wild and spirited scrawl of his. There was no shameless Emperor of the Ages, nor was there something ridiculous like deep-fried or steamed. He hadn't written a thing. The grave of the first Emperor of the cultivation world was, in the end, unmarked. And so the curtains finally closed on a spectacle that had lasted for a decade. Many, many hours later, the rebel army invaded the resident palace of the emperor with torches held high. However, what awaited them was an empty Wushan palace, a Shisheng Peak without a soul, and at the Red Lotus Pavilion, Shimeng, who had cried himself numb, slumped over on the floor covered in ashes, and finally, before the heaven-piercing tower, the long cold corpse of MAYRHOFER. Okay, wow, that's an intense start to a novel. Oh goodness. Okay, so that is the end of the first chapter, which is why I think it's a good place to stop. But I'm gonna need a moment to decompress and talk about this, because why do Chinese novels love to end with starts with their main characters dying? Oh my word. That was really good, and I feel like if I ever reread this first chapter is gonna have me in tears, because then I'm gonna be so attached to the characters. But just even first time reading it, not knowing the characters very well, that was intense, and the writing was so beautiful. Just damn. What are your guys' thoughts? Because I need a moment to just exist. Damn. Fun to visit the story again. So fun. Genuinely, I'm glad you feel that way. But that's not a very positive first chapter to start on. Yeah, no, I'm kind of aware of where it's going, because for anyone who's been here for a while, I did read the first few chapters of the manhwa. Those are also up on my channel, but I can barely remember anything about it. So I knew that he was going to be reborn, but I couldn't really remember anything besides that. And I just remembered that Shizun was a character, and I'm excited to experience him again. It's called the tragic aesthetic. That is fantastic. That's indeed very much an aesthetic at this point. But yeah, that was so good. I kind of just want to continue reading, but I can feel my voice going a little bit already, so I don't want to push it because I want to be able to do a live tomorrow as well. But we did get through about 28 pages, which is more than I was expecting. I thought maybe like 20 pages. So I don't know, I could maybe do between like 25 to 30 pages an hour, depending. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be another one of those novels that has great reread value. Like, especially with the Chinese novels, there's so much that you don't pick up on the first read through. Okay, maybe I shouldn't generalize like that, but the novels like with Shang Tongshu and with Priest, I feel like the rewatch reread value is definitely there, and it seems like this is definitely going to be the case as well. With what's, I know her English name is basically Meat Bun Doesn't Eat Meat, but I struggle. Ruo Ba Bu Chu Ruo. Okay, there we go. I don't think I pronounced that right, but there we go. So yeah, that was the first chapter. That was amazing. I was so stressed going into it, but that was so much fun, and I'm so excited to continue reading. I think it's gonna be a bit of a painful experience on my end, having to wait every single week until we get to the next read along, because I'm already like, I want to keep going. But we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow. I think probably tomorrow is gonna be the same time as today, and also again another hour, and then maybe if we're really lucky, I can start doing 2 hours from next week, from next Saturday. We'll just have to see how the voice holds up, basically. Same as the first chapter of Lord Seventh, always the reread after finishing the novels. I haven't read Lord Seventh, I've only read Guardian and obviously Faraway Wanderers we just finished. But yeah, other than that, I haven't. Oh, and of course I did, in my private time, I read Chapeau, but I didn't do a read through of that or anything like that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you guys have any like feedback on how we can maybe make the stream better. I'm still kind of trying to find my footing a little bit. I hope I didn't like mess up too much. But yeah, for now I'm really hyped. This first chapter really lived up to the expectations, and now I'm so excited for the next one, because in the next one I'm assuming we're getting reborn Moran, and I'm here for it. I'm sorry, I'm so hyped. I probably should calm down now. The cursing wasn't as bad as I feared, but it wasn't great. I still don't quite know how I'm gonna do the bleeping out of the bad words. We shall see. Okay, hope you guys have an amazing rest of the day, and I shall set up the stream for tomorrow, like schedule the stream for tomorrow as soon as possible, so you can like pop the reminder on if you'd like. But yeah, otherwise I'll see you guys tomorrow. 再见.